So let's finish out lesson 11 by taking a look at a slightly more advanced process execution function called spawn, which is also in the child process module. Let's create a new file here called looper.js. And if you remember previously, we wrote a node execution script, a very primitive one that basically just said while one node my script, and then if it ever crashed, done. If it ever crashed, it would just go back to the beginning here or something like that. So let's write a basic version of this in Node.js using the spawn function. And of course, that's actually going to take a bunch more code to do it in Node as opposed to just these 2 or 3 lines of, Bash script or Windows command script. But it'll demonstrate all of the sort of key principles of working with the spawn function, and more importantly, it'll sort of set us up to add more functionality later on if we so decided to. So let us first get the spawn function, which is going to be spawn equals require child process, and we're going to do what we did before with the exec function and just extract the function we need. Continuing along, I'll need to make sure that I've got the correct number of arguments, so process. Let's actually spell it right. Process.argv.length. Again, I want it to be 3 because I want to have this script to execute. And I can actually even just say if it's less than 3 because I do kind of want to be able to pass in other arguments or something. So then I'll say console.log do what now? And then process.exit -1 like that. Now, the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to first write a function called spawn node. And what this is going to do is I'm going to var node equals, and I'm going to spawn, and the first thing it does is it's the name of the process to execute or to spawn, and that's just going to be node, which is in our path. Then it needs to know what to spawn and what to sort of pass to node, and here's where I'm going to say process.argv.slice2. And so what this does is it's going to say get rid of the first 2 arguments in process argv and then pass those to the node process. Now, I've basically got another evented object here which I can add some handlers to and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say node.standardout.on readable, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to say console.log standard out, and oopsie, I have to do var d equals node.standardout.read like that, plus d.toString utf8. Okay, and then I'll do the same thing for standard error because these are both given to me, and whoopsie, standard error and standard error like that. And then the other thing I'm going to add an event for is what's called the exit event. So I'm going to say node.on exit, and then this is going to be given a function as well. And then what I'm going to do here is, let's actually split that one out. So I'll say process exited like that. Okay, now here I'll write a function process exited, and what I'll do is I'll relaunch spawn node like that. So whenever this exits, I'll call this function, and it'll actually just make sure that node relaunches itself. So my final act here is to actually just call this spawn node function the first time. So basically, I'm going to make sure I got the right number of arguments. If I do, go ahead and spawn node, and then immediately listen for standard out or standard error data, and then print those out as soon as I get them. And then if I do see that the process has exited, then what I'm going to do is let's actually print a message. So we'll say console.error unexpected exit, and restarting like that, and then I'll just go ahead and restart it. So let's create a simple little script called timeout, which will mimic a web server that dies after 2 seconds. So I'll say set timeout like that, function console.log I am crashy, and that's going to be all it does, and it crashes after 2 seconds. And my editor is being petulant. Okay, great. So now I have my looper, and I should be able to just pass it this timeout script, and it should just execute that, and whenever that script exits, it should be able to go back and run it again. So what I'm going to say is I'm going to say node looper and timeout, and let's see if we got all that right. And great. So basically every 2 seconds it's simulating a crash by just exiting, and my looping program is seeing this exit event and it's going, huh, you shouldn't be doing that, and is restarting it. And then the other program, the timeout.js, is just printing stuff to its standard output. So that's the basics of a looper. You'll see it's a way more code than just my simple little shell script, but now what I can do is I can add logic here. If too many restarts, then don't bother anymore. I have all sorts of opportunities to do neat things. I can add analytics. I can put things in different locations. I can notify people via emails if there's lots of problems. So I've not only demonstrated sort of how the spawn function works here in the child process module, but I've sort of given you the foundations for how you could write a more advanced process launching script if you wanted to sort of play with this and continue along. And with that, we've sort of completed our 11th live lesson here, which is absolutely fantastic, command line programming and synchronous programming. And so I'm going to finish out these Node.js live lessons with a small little introduction to writing tests and stuff, and we'll see you for that one then.